Welcome to Kronos Gaming. Let me introduce you to Hell Let Loose and its basics. It's a World War II first-person shooter and battles take place in iconic locations. Like in France, like Saint Mary-Église in 1944, Germany, the Battle of Remagen in 1945, Belgium, the Siege of Bastogne in 1944, the Netherlands, Operation Market Garden in 1944, Soviet Union, Battle of Stalingrad between 1942 and 3, and Egypt, El Alamein in 1942, to name the few. As of July 2024, there are currently 16 playable maps and well more on the way. The game features historic weapons and vehicles of that era, ensuring an authentic combat experience. Each map is designed using satellite imagery, archival aerial photography, and street-level recreation to ensure as much historical accuracy as possible. The immersive gameplay is enhanced by realistic audio, high-quality visuals, and fixed weather effects such as rain, snow, and fog, which vary by map. Battles take place during day and night, requiring players to adapt their strategies to different lighting conditions and environments. You will experience immersions like no other, and together with your team, you will attempt to take control over enemy territories, creating a dynamic and engaging experience that reflects the true complexities of the World War II warfare. In this video, I will try my best to try to explain to you the basics of Hell Let Loose, so your experience going into the game would be smoother. We'll be going over the factions, roles, map legend, game modes, strategies, general knowledge, and some bonus tips. And of course, another giveaway, since you guys are so amazing. But more of that later in the video. On to the factions. Hell Let Loose currently features 4 factions: the United States, Germany, the Soviet Union, and the British Army. Additionally, in Egypt, we have British 8th Army and German Afrika Corps. So you can experience a variety of historical battles from multiple perspectives relative to where they took place and what weapons were used back then. Each side can have a maximum of 50 players, and the game has a hierarchy structure, and there are 14 playable roles in this game. Now let's dive further into the chain of command and communication between them. In the very top, we have commander role, leading your faction and responsible for coordinating actions with all squad leaders. So that would be all officers, all tank commanders, and recon units. Commander is responsible for maintaining stability and coordinating momentum on the battlefield, as he can call in air support, vehicles, and manage the team's resources. These 4 roles have a direct line of voice communication with each other, so they can receive information from each other and relay the gathered information. There should be a constant exchange of information. For example, they exchange information about where friendly spawning beacons need to be built, where enemy spawning beacons are or possibly could be, which squads should attack or defend, where are the enemy infantry units attacking from, which direction should some teams pay attention to, what is the enemy tank current position and type, etc. This information will be passed further down the line by the squad leaders if it's relevant. Additionally, markers will be placed on the map to duplicate the information, but more of that in a little bit. So as you can see, there are 3 squad leader roles: officer, spotter, and tank commander. Each have their own squad. Officer has up to 5 infantrymen with him, spotter has a sniper with him, and a tank commander has up to 2 crewmen with him. So we have soldiers of their respective squads. Squad voice communication is limited to your squad only. Other squads cannot hear that. Each squad has their own voice channel, so everything that they are currently doing, supposed to be doing, or planning to do should be constantly communicated with each other. Every little piece of information is important: direction of enemy fire, their location, using cover, providing covering fire, ammunition requests, flanking plans, etc. During the course of the game, there will be many positional adjustments. Some random examples would be that Bravo squad is ordered to stop attacking and go defending, or Charlie, the recon squad, should go deal with the enemy artillery, or Mike, the tank squad, should assist in attacking or defending a point. Based on the information exchanged and the developments of the battlefield, the information constantly moves from up to down and from down to up, creating this interesting cycle of information which is used to coordinate the next steps towards achieving victory. So, a quick recap of this. Leadership have their own voice chat, which is red. Squads have their own voice chat, which is green. Additionally, you have a proximity chat, which every friendly unit can use and hear, near proximity, of course, and that is blue. And also it's possible to write in either team chat, which all 50 players of your side will see, or your squad chat, which your squad sees. Check out your key bindings and settings, make them more comfortable, or leave as is. And remember, exchanging information is important. Now about the pinging. You will see people pinging. The attention triangle will appear to get your attention towards some activity in the area, either be it infantry, enemy spawn point, or vehicles. If you ping, tell what it is you are pinging. If you see someone of your team pinging, then ask what it is. As regular infantry, you can do regular pings, like everyone else, and additionally use short markers, like defending, attacking, observing, and moving. These all last around 10 seconds and are only visible to your squad. Those pings can be done by either left-clicking on the map and choosing or using whatever button you have set to get the marker circle. For me, it's holding the middle mouse button down and choosing the marker. Regular pings for me are just the middle mouse button clicks. Markers you see on the map is the simplest way of non-verbal information exchange. Markers and pings are there for a reason. In the most simplistic way, they are either what you or your squad are planning to do, or what the enemy is planning to do, or where they are. If you happen to be in a squad leader role, it's a great practice to duplicate the information that was exchanged via voice communication onto the map as well, by marking what you saw. If you are not in a squad leader role, tell your squad leader to mark the point of interest on the map accordingly. Everyone can put some type of markers on the map, depending on the role you play. You may or may not see certain markers, so check out this sheet for further information. Thanks to WWII for composing this. As you see, squad leaders and commanders have to process a lot of information and keep the information accurate. You can see on the left column, there are the pings that the commander can do, and on the right column, you can see the pings that the squad leaders can do. Feel free to pause here. Maybe you want to try to memorize some of it. Knowing what the markers are and what they indicate gives you a ton of information, and also, as we already talked about, you are able to give a lot of information to other people. Now let's check out these 14 roles. There is a lot of variety to choose from. Each class has their own specialities and respective historic weapons of that era. It differs by faction, and as you progress your class level through playing games, you can unlock different loadouts. You can explore those loadouts further by going to the barracks in the main game menu. Additionally, you get career experience as you play, which levels up your rank. You can check out my in-depth video on the experience system if you wish. Now, in a nutshell, the roles are following. First up, Commander. As already mentioned, responsible for coordinating actions of all squads and issuing commands for your team to get vehicles and air support, managing resources, building spawn beacons, creating momentum and stabilizing situations via chain of command. Most important role and requires the most game knowledge. Next up, Officer, leader of an infantry squad. The second most important role in my opinion, also requires decent chunk of game knowledge and is also responsible for deploying garrisons and outposts. Officer has to communicate and coordinate his own squad and exchange information with other squad leaders and the commander. Next up, Rifleman, the most basic, classic frontline soldier, can easily engage an enemy from a distance, but also good at close quarters too. Can deploy ammunition boxes for others to replenish their ammo. Next, Assault. Excellent in close quarters combats. Uses weapons like submachine guns, different rifles, shotgun, has a lot of grenades. Satchel at a later level as well. Satchel is a timed explosive charge, which destroys anything within a 25-meter radius, and it ignores wall collision. Next, we have Automatic Rifleman. He has an increased fire rate compared to a regular rifleman as he uses automatic weapons and also has some grenades. Next we have a Medic. Medic does not have very great weapon loadouts, but he has the ability to revive wounded allies. He has smoke grenades. It's not a very popular role, but can be very fun. Check out my guide if you wish. Next, support. Very crucial class, as it has the supply crate in the loadout, which can be mostly used for building garrisons. Officer usually tells you where he wants the supplies dropped, so keep your supplies ready for that and don't just drop them randomly. You are basically chained to your squad leader, so stay close to him. Next, we have a machine gunner. Name speaks for itself. It is equipped with a machine gun to provide heavy suppression on enemy units and positions. He can destroy light vehicles like a supply truck, transport truck, or a jeep with his machine gun. Next we have anti-tank. That's my personal favorite. Has different means to combat enemy armor, like a rocket launcher, can build anti-tank gun, has anti-tank mines, and also has the explosive satchel in a later loadout as well. Very, very fun class to play if you like explosions. Next we have engineer. Engineer is also very important role, as he specializes in building different structures like resource nodes, which are very important. Defensive structures like barricades, barbed wire, and more. Class has also anti-personnel mines and anti-tank mines, and also satchel at the later level. And you can also check out my guide if you wish. Next, we have a tank commander. As a tank commander, you will be leading your tank crew of 2 men. There are 3 roles to fill in your tank with your crewmen, those being the driver, the shooter, or the spotter. All roles are important. Tank commander receives information from commander and other squad leaders and would always want to know where the enemy armor is, alongside enemy infantry. And of course relays the information from the battlefield back to the squad leaders and the commander. The class also unlocks a torch at a later level to repair vehicles. And the next one is crewman. You will find yourself filling any 3 of the roles I just mentioned, the spotter, shooter, or the driver, to work together with your tank commander as a whole unit. Tank squads require good coordination and internal communication. Crewman also unlocks a torch at a later level to repair vehicles. Spotter. Essentially, you are a spotter for the entire team, not only for your sniper. You will spend most of your time in the back lines with your sniper, doing reconnaissance activities, disrupting enemy logistics and movements. A good spotter can help turn the tides of the game, so the role has great responsibility. You will be gathering information and letting other squad leaders and the commander know of how strong or weak the enemy presence is in the area of interest. Spotter can deploy garrisons for the entire team and also outposts for himself and his sniper. Latter can be placed anywhere on the map, making him and the sniper very flexible. Spotter also unlocks a flare gun in the later levels, which when shot to the sky will show enemy positions in its radius. Last but not least, favorite for a lot of people, sniper. He can easily engage enemies from a long distance due to his weapon having optics. With your spotter, you can work together to cause maximum havoc in the backlines to disrupt enemy logistics and weakening enemy presence. As a recon team, you will be oftentimes asked to silence the enemy artillery, which means that you have to go to the enemy middle HQ. Doesn't matter which one goes, important is to deal with it. Now let's check out the spawn beacon icons and their characteristics. These are the icons you will see during your gameplay. Everyone can spawn from the HQ, garrison, airhead, and half track if they're not locked or disabled. I'll explain that in a little bit. You can spawn from the unit outpost if you are in an infantry squad and your squad leader has built an outpost. You can see other teams' outposts on the map as well. Those belong to their respective squads. If you are in a recon unit, you can spawn from the recon outpost if your spotter has built one. This is limited to only your recon squad. Last but not least, you can see what the friendly recon team outpost looks like. Those belong to their respective recon teams. And now about the giveaway. I want to host another one. Last time we gave away 3 copies of Hell Let Loose randomly to the participants. This time we will do more. I will give out 5 copies. To participate in the giveaway, all you have to do is like the video, comment your favorite weapon of this game, and subscribe. Winners will be announced next month, same method as we did last time, with the random comment picker. Good luck. Back to the spawning points. An outpost is a structure that allows players in the same squad to redeploy on it. Can be placed by the officer and spotter roles. The outpost allows squad mates to redeploy on it every 20 seconds, or if you are lucky, then less, since it's on a repeated 20-second cycle. Only one outpost per squad may exist at any given time. Placing a new outpost will automatically dismantle the old one. Additionally, placing an outpost will initiate a 120-second cooldown timer before another one can be placed. An officer may bypass the cooldown by manually dismantling their existing outpost. An officer is able to place their outpost in friendly territory or in active enemy territory or neutral territory. A spotter is able to place their outpost anywhere. The outpost marker on the map will display a red ping if an enemy is within 50 meters. Outposts will be destroyed if the sector containing the outpost is captured by enemy forces, except those placed by a spotter. The sector containing the outpost becomes locked enemy territory, or an enemy player comes within 10 meters of the outpost. It can be also destroyed if it's within the blast radius of a satchel, AT rocket, AT gun, tank shell, or grenade explosion, Molotov, flamethrower, commander's precision strike, or a bombing run. And of course, artillery. Next up, we have garrisons. A garrison is a structure that all players of a team may redeploy on. It is only buildable with the commander, officer, or spotter roles by using the watch, and requires supplies. The standard garrison allows teammates to redeploy on it every 40 seconds. Since it's on a repeated time cycle, you can spawn a lot earlier too, if you're lucky. Headquarters garrisons allow a deployment cycle of 10 seconds. Garrisons may be built in friendly sectors for 50 supplies, or in active enemy sectors for 100 supplies. You just have to be within 50 meters of the supplies to build them. Garrisons cannot be built in neutral sectors or locked enemy sectors. Only 8 garrisons may exist at any given time, and they cannot be placed within 200 meters of one another. These restrictions do not apply to garrisons which are already present at the start of an offensive match or your HQ garrison. If a garrison needs to be dismantled to make way for new ones, existing garrisons can be dismantled manually by the commander or by the officer who placed it. If an enemy is within 50 meters of a garrison in friendly territory, the garrison marker on the map will display a red ping. If an enemy comes to within 15 meters, the garrison marker will become entirely red, indicating that the garrison is overrun and locked. This prevents players from redeploying on the garrison. Garrisons within active enemy territory are disabled if an enemy comes within 100 meters. A killed or a downed player will not lock a garrison. An HQ garrison will disappear from the map and become unavailable for spawning when an enemy team is capturing a point in the same sector. Garrisons can be destroyed if the sector containing the garrison is captured by enemy forces. It can also be destroyed if it's within the radius of a satchel, Molotov, flamethrower, AT rocket, AT gun, commander's precision strike, bombing run, or a Katyusha strike, or a tank shell explosion, or artillery. It can also be manually dismantled by infantry. In active sectors, it takes you 5 seconds to dismantle. In locked enemy territory, it takes 30 seconds to dismantle. The manual dismantling is sped up relative to how many people are dismantling it. Next up, we have airheads. An airhead is a temporary redeploy point which may be dropped into an active sector on the map by the commander. Because it can be dropped anywhere in an active sector, airheads can be extremely effective for launching attacks. Dropping an airhead consumes 400 manpower resources. The airhead behaves much like a garrison in that it allows all the teammates to redeploy on it. However, unlike a garrison built in enemy territory, which will only become overrun if an enemy closes within 100 meters, an airhead in enemy territory will become overrun if an enemy player closes within 15 meters. Airheads remain for a total of 3 minutes and have a wave timer of 30-second cycles, allowing for a total of 6 spawn waves. Once again, you can spawn earlier than 30 seconds if you're lucky. Airhead can be destroyed if the sector containing an airhead is captured by the enemy forces. It can be destroyed if it's within the radius of a satchel, AT rocket, AT gun, grenade, tank shell, flamethrower or Molotov, and the commander's abilities, which are precision strike, bombing run, or a Katyusha strike, and of course artillery. Or it can be dismantled manually by enemy infantry. And now the half tracks. Half tracks are essentially like backup garrisons. They can be spawned by the commander. It costs 300 fuel for him. When the engine is off, it works as a garrison and has a respawn cycle of 60 seconds, or less if you're lucky. Half-tracks have a mounted machine gun on top, which can be used. Half-tracks can be deployed in friendly territory, neutral territory, or unlocked enemy territory. Since it is expensive resource-wise, you don't see them a whole lot. Normally, a commander or a squad leader will drive it to the desired destination to set up the spawning point. Do not move the half-track or turn its engine on or off without permission. You could compromise your entire team. Outposts, garrisons, and half-tracks emit audible radio traffic, which you can hear from about 15 to 20 meters away, and you can easily determine if it's friendly or enemy by the language you hear. If it's not your faction's language, it's an enemy spawn point. If an enemy is near enough to trigger the red ping described previously, the radio will emit minor static. If overrun, the garrison will emit only static. Half-tracks can be destroyed by a commander's precision strike, bombing run, or a Katyusha. Tank shells, anti-tank rockets, anti-tank gun shells, satchels, and anti-tank mines. As of July 2024, there are currently 3 game modes, those being Warfare, Offensive, and Skirmish. Let's go over them so you get an understanding how they work. Most commonly, you will find yourself in a Warfare game mode. In this game mode, 2 teams compete in a tug-of-war for control over the map's 5 strongpoints. The match timer is 1 hour and 30 minutes. At the start of the match, both teams are granted control over the 2 strongpoints closest to their HQ, while the middle strongpoint is considered neutral territory, and the first fighting will take place in that sector. Objectives must be captured in consecutive order, and both teams have access to artillery in their middle HQ. There are 2 victory conditions in the Warfare game mode, those being control more strong points than the enemy until the time expires, or capture all enemy sectors. In this game mode, you have to have a solid foothold in your controlled sector before you could effectively advance to a full-scale attack. This means that your team has to have, I would say, at least 3 garrisons around your current strongpoint and at minimum 2 around previous strongpoint, so you have places to fall back on when things go sour. There will be no good offense if defensive measures are not taken care of first. You can imagine how fast the enemy would storm your positions and take over the territory if you only have 1 garrison on the point. Garrisons are very easy to take out, so safe to say that will not be sufficient. So whenever you see situations like this, communicate with your team to help make the situation better. Build more garrisons. Just imagine a car that has a gas tank with holes in it. It will not get you very far. So once again, if your defensive lines have holes in them, then advancing further will be very, very difficult. When your sector is stable and offensive play is on the table, then a good practice is to have 2 defensive squads who patrol the sector while others go on offense. On to the next game mode, which is offensive. Offensive game mode is where one team attacks and the other one defends. The match is split into 5 stages, with 1 strong point per stage. The attacking team has 30 minutes to capture each strong point. After a successful capture, the match timer is set to 30 minutes again. Once a point has been captured, it cannot be recaptured by the defender. Unlike in the Warfare game mode, the attackers and defenders must stay inside the strong point to capture or defend the sector. Only the defending team has access to artillery, which can be found in their middle HQ. Additionally, attackers cannot advance more than 2 sectors, that is, a total depth of 4 grid squares, into enemy territory. The defender starts with 3 garrisons in the second sector, in addition to their HQ garrisons. There is only 1 victory condition for each side. As defenders, you must hold the strong point until time expires, and as the attackers, you have to capture all enemy strong points before the time expires. If the attacking team is capturing a strong point when the time runs out, the match will go into overtime, and the attacking team's manpower resource will decrease at a rate of 5 per second. The game will end if the attacker's manpower reserves reach 0 or the defenders regain full control of the strong point. If you are on the attacking side, you will need your team to have opportunities to attack from all possible angles. The front, the sides, and maybe even the back. Essentially, you want to either push your enemies to the corner in a way that you can overrun them by brute force, or you just encircle them and take their spawns from that point. This will increase the chance of a breakthrough from one of these angles, so multiple attacking garrisons is extremely necessary to advance in this game mode. If you are on the defensive side, your team needs to build, I would say, minimum of 4 garrisons around the current strong point and 3 around the previous one to be able to hold out the enemies if they advance further. It's not uncommon for defensive side to have engineers build defensive structures like barricades, barbed wires, and bunkers around some point that already has existing natural covers there. With good engineers, you can make an absolute fortress and hold out the enemy offense for good. And the next one is Skirmish. In Skirmish, the matches are only 30 minutes long. Plus, instead of fighting over and trying to capture and defend 5 sectors, you only have to focus on one. There are some differences between this game mode and the Warfare and Offensive. For one thing, there is no artillery in this game mode. Another thing that is different is that armor and recon squads are limited to 1 squad per team, and the commander can only spawn a medium tank. The last thing that differentiates this mode from Warfare and Offensive is that both teams start with 2 sets of munitions, fuel, and manpower nodes. In Skirmish, forward positions are similar to garrisons, like in Warfare and Offensive. They are a little different in that there is a cooldown timer of 90 seconds after placing a forward position before you can build another one. Also, instead of not being able to build a forward position within 200 meters of another forward position, it has been decreased to 140 meters. Other than that, you still need 50 supplies to build a forward position in a friendly area and 100 supplies to build a forward position in an enemy area. Supplies can be dropped by a support player, supply truck, or a commander, and the roles that can build a forward position are the commander, officer, and spotter using the watch, just like the garrison. The main key to winning matches in Skirmish is to hold the sector. This can be done by building several forward positions around the sector so that if the enemy team does happen to find and destroy one of the forward positions of your team, then you would have several backups. In this game mode, you want to have forward positions everywhere around your strong point because they light up when the enemies are near, just like other spawn beacons, and that indicates their directions of attack. Additionally, your team can build up defensive fortifications using supplies with your engineers, so that it's more difficult for the other team to get control of the point. To conclude the game modes, there's a common denominator for all of them, which is important to note. If you are attacking, you need to attack from all possible angles with garrisons to find cracks in enemy defenses and eventually establish control over there. And if you are defending, you need to have defensive garrisons set up around the point you are defending to detect enemy attacking direction and to hold off enemy attacks. Now the final things, we'll be going over the general tips and some knowledge. Let's talk about the holy grail of Hell Let Loose, the communication. Honestly, it's a hard topic to talk about. You see a lot of people not really communicating these days. This game is all about communication, and without it, the game would not be what it is. It's a military simulation. Now I understand that everybody are not extroverted, do not have a mic, or are not able or not comfortable to talk. Nobody is expecting you to be with a Spanish football commentator energy. I'm not very extroverted either, and depending on the squad, I might not talk much, and that is okay. But I do respond when a question is being asked of me, and I voluntarily forward important information like tank on ping, mark the tank on ping, supplies dropped, and so on. Short information. What you have to keep in mind is to do the thing we talked about, and that is forwarding short information. The simple infantry on ping in squad's voice chat is a night and day difference if compared to absolute radio silence. You get me? In harder matches, it is very difficult to play when the team does not communicate vocally. Chat communication can work, but it's not ideal. Is it possible to play with only pings? Yeah. Is it most optimal and effective? No. Due to that, I strongly recommend you to change teams if you find yourself in a mute squad After all, as a new player, you want to ask things and absorb the information as you see and hear. Next thing I want to talk about is line of sight. It's an imaginary line drawn between your eyes and the target without any obstruction blocking the view. So use crouch walking, crawling sometimes, or sprinting to your advantage. Barricades, houses, walls, trenches, tree or bush lines, foxholes, etc. are all there for you to use. The smaller you make yourself, the harder you are to see. So when moving from cover to cover, make yourself smaller to spot. You don't have to move fast, you have to move strategically. Open and empty fields with no cover are your worst enemy. If you can, then always avoid them. I want you to get into a habit of peeking the corners before actually turning the corner. That way, you will have a little advantage and you will be more prepared. Do stuff like that. Strategic moving is all about maintaining or breaking the line of sight. You are the most dangerous when the enemy does not see you and you engage them. But that doesn't mean you have to camp unnecessarily. There's a time and place for everything. The fast plays and the slow plays, you'll get a hang of it in time. I want to talk about redeploying. This is an underrated and sadly underused method of repositioning yourself. You could get to where you need to be in about, let's say, 30 seconds instead of maybe having to run for 5 minutes. Besides, it doesn't cost you anything. You're doing a favor for your team. This is usually done when a situation has evolved into a such that suddenly you are way out of position and are absolutely no use of over there where you currently are. And no, don't make a mega flank back to the point where people are redeploying. It's very rare you can justify it. 90% of the time, you would be wasting your time. Just open your menu and redeploy. If you want to be a good team player, then redeploy when it's being asked of you. A solid redeploy wave can turn the tides of the game. Let's also touch base on the shooting. So don't spray your submachine guns or spam click your semi-automatic rifles at a distance. You are much better off doing controlled taps or bursts. Learn to have a trigger control. It's very important. Weapons have a decent recoil and there's a bullet drop as well, which you have to get used to. There will be some times where you could take a shot, but always think, what happens next if I do it? What if you miss? What if there are 2 enemies? Could you get them both without dying? If you are on an important flank, then be mindful when you open fire. Revealing your position or your team's position can compromise your flanks. But of course, that is situational. The game has a steep learning curve and you will die a lot. Don't let it throw you off. You will get better with practice. When starting out, play it slow, play behind your allies, and listen to the sounds. Keep your eyes open. Default nameplate setting will help you quickly determine where the friendly players are. If you see no nameplate but a soldier, then you know what to do. You will hear a lot of footsteps. If you are uncertain if it's friendly or enemy footsteps, first have a look at the nameplates around you. If you are still unsure, then just open the map and see if the sounds you hear equal to what you see on the map next to you. If there are no blue dots, you are next to an enemy. If you see or hear an enemy spawn beacon, you can determine it the same way by looking at the map. Same thing goes for vehicles. I recommend rebinding the map key to a more comfortable hotkey than the default one, so you can constantly check the map with ease. For me, it's on caps lock. If you got a mouse with lots of side buttons, I would put it there. If you find yourself running alone away from the others, I highly recommend to do short listening pauses when moving around. You can easily pick up something that is out of the ordinary once you get used to it. Guys, I really wanted to make this video as short as possible, but there's just so many basic things that need covering, and look where we are now. And this is only scratching the surface. I'm very grateful if you made it this far and took time off your day to watch this video. I hope you learned some things. I highly value your support, so please like, comment, and subscribe and share it with your friends who might learn something from this video. I am aiming for 1,000 subscribers by the end of this year. If you could help me get there, that would be amazing. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you on the battlefield.